Hello, welcome back for another week of Linden scripting language. This is Becca, often going by Nightcat or Nightcat's Meow when I'm online. And this week we're actually going to create a suggestion box. What this is going to do is show you about changing how the system responds based on who makes contact with it, who's touching the object. It's also going to teach you about how to add inventory and distribute material to other users. So, without further ado, this doesn't have a special freebie because it doesn't really need any special build to make it work. All you need is your Mark 1 virtual cube, right here, the basic prim. Created once more, just in case build skills get rusty. Right click, create, little magic wand icon, cube, kaboom! I have summoned the Mark 1 cube. Hit new script, pop that open. We're not going to need the state entry, at least not for a while. Now you may remember back when I taught about the sword, sheath, and draw, about making sure that you were the only one that can control that. We're actually going to do something similar here. First we're going to test to see if the owner of the object is in contact with it. So LL, if LL, detected key 0, because all lists in a computer start at 0. Most humans started at 1, computers started at 0. Double equals, so absolutely equals. Get owner. Pardon me, well, the real world intrudes and I have to get my cat off my desk. You okay, precious? Landed a little harder than I expected. You okay? Alright, my cat is okay. And because we only need two options here, the if it is and if it is not, so the owner and everyone else. You also remember from last week I taught you about using the owner say as a better way of doing feedback because it comes only to you. Owner clicked. And just because I'm feeling a little silly, oh, that tickles. Now, fair warning, you see here somebody's trying to contact me here. I usually have that disabled when I'm doing these, but that would also block part of what I want to teach you. So, Precious, get down. My cat is again trying to get in on the video here. Unfortunately, my cat cannot code. So my cat has very little to teach you right now. So, owner clicked, that's all we're going to be able to do working by ourselves. However, here's where we're going to get a little bit interesting. We're going to create a new variable, another toggle variable, integer, test equals true. What we're going to do with that is here, whereas with every other time I've shown you an if command, we've stopped at just the one comparison, you can actually do multiple comparisons. A double ampersand means this and this. Actually, we want that to be false. So if it's detecting the owner and test equals false, respond. Since there's only one other option, it's just an else, that means if test is true, which it is, that it cannot satisfy both conditions no matter who clicks it. So we'll get the everybody. That's a good way to be able to flick this back and forth to test without having another avatar around. As much as I may consider scripting to be wonderfully fun, interesting, and a deep, enjoyable experience, and I'm hoping some of you do too, if you're watching somebody code, it is incredibly boring. Regrettably, I have probably proven this to you already. But it's even more so in SL, where you'll see their avatar just standing there, staring off into space, not doing anything, and probably not the most responsive. At least here you can see what I'm doing. You know what I am looking at. You can see things. You see? Now we're getting the anybody else response. So we've got a good start there. Now, in order to make this a proper suggestion box, we of course have to have suggestions. So we're going to give a blank suggestion card. This is a note card for giving suggestions. Pop this back open. Now, you can easily go to the wiki to double check things. I went ahead and took notes on here because even though you're seeing the wiki pages when I bring them up, you're seeing, well, you're actually seeing pictures of screen captures of the wiki pages because the recording program won't let me show you Firefox while I'm showing you Second Life. Kind of weird. So I will just go ahead and copy the thing I need here. Give inventory. Key destination. This is the key of where you're sending it. There are actually ways to send inventory to other objects, entire groups. There's all sorts of jiggery pokery you can do with it. Right now we're going to stay simple and send it to a specific avatar. Who? The person who clicked the box. You tickle the box, you get a note card. String inventory. You put it in the quotation marks because it's a name, so it's a string. Suggestion. Completed. Minimize. Close. And there we go. It pops up with a, this is a note card for giving suggestions. It just gave us a fresh copy of it. Awfully convenient, that. Now, if this were a real suggestion box, we'd have a questionnaire, we'd have options to fill in, and so on and so forth. Now, the next thing is you want to be able to have them put that back into the box. That is where we're going to pull allow inventory drop. Normally, you have to have the edit rights to it. That means it belongs to you and it has edit permissions, or it belongs to a friend of yours that has given you the right to edit their objects. Very trusting soul. Don't abuse it. State entry. And this is a simple true or false toggle. So, true. That has allowed somebody to add something to this box. You can make this for suggestion boxes. You can make this for character applications in a role-play sim. You can make a mailbox system out of this. There are a lot of different things you can do with that. But anytime you want to have somebody put an object in there, without giving them edit permissions to it, you need to have allow inventory drop true. Now, just so you know, this will not let somebody put another script in there. That's a security thing. I mean, you can, if you think about it, you can undoubtedly come up with 100 ways that that could get really bad if it allowed somebody to drop a script in there. It doesn't. Don't worry about it. That is safe. Linden Labs closed that door before we ever walked into the, walked up to it. So, back to here. The next thing you're going to want is the ability to take the items, the suggestions, and give them back out. Let's say we filled that out, dropped it in, it had the same name. The prim automatically made it suggestion 1. This is really good. At that point, we could use the same give inventory, but let us assume that there's going to be a bunch of them. If we're going to do that, we want to make this a little more organized. So we're going to use a different option. We're going to use get inventory list. This is sort of give inventory list. This is give inventory's grown-up big brother. And wow, did I put that in the wrong place. This is what I get for being a little too tired when I work on these videos. Had a lot going on, just bear with me. I still know what I'm talking about. I'm just prone to small typos and little bits of derpitude. Detected key 0, string folder. This is an actual folder in your inventory, like your inventory, that will be created when this comes. So, suggestions, and list inventory. Lists come in brackets like that. Right now we're only going to have one thing there. Suggestion 1. So we'll go ahead and work with that one for now, just to show you how this works, and then we'll go through how to make that more of a universal thing. Completed. And actually, because we need to be able to be the owner for this, false. So we are the one that created it, so detected key equals get owner will be true, and test will be false this time. Accept. You see, create the folder suggestions, which has suggestion 1. That's great if you know exactly what's going to be in there. You can actually create, I'll just do a quick demonstration. Suggestion 2, suggestion 3, there. That adds all 3 of those. Delete that. Accept. You save session 1, 2, and 3. That's fine if you know exactly what you're going to want to give. If you want to distribute a number of objects on your sim, and you know what they are, say a rules list, character application, or if you just make things that you want to give away to people at a certain event, you can set this up and it will give that specific list. Click on it, boom, it gives that. You can even rig this up to be if somebody walks through a particular place, it will give it to them. The same way that we had set the door to detect when you collided or when you walked across the threshold, you could have it give inventory instead of open a door. A lot of ways you can do that. However, if we're going to make this work as a true suggestion box, we're not always going to know the name of every note card somebody's going to drop in. We're not always going to know how many there are. So filling this in advance is not going to work. We're going to have to do something a little more creative. So we're going to create a new variable of a list notes. We don't have to fill it in. We're going to say, make that give. And we're going to pull this up there. This is where we get into the complicated part of the day's work. Here, I am going to show you how to make a for loop. But before I make a for loop, I'm going to show you how to do something you don't want to do. I'm going to show you how to do this because it will help you see how easy it is to screw something like this up. So we'll create a function loop that triggers in state entry. Loop. Make this super annoying. Say it on channel 0. I am loopy. Sleep is just a simple delay. This is going to get very annoying very fast, I warn you. There it goes. I'm showing you this because many years ago, my first exposure to programming, little kid at a special little programming camp at the elementary school, one of the first things we learned was how to make a dumb loop. That's what this is called. It is a dumb loop. It will continue running indefinitely like a moron. Nothing will stop it, except for shutting down the program. Right there. I wanted you to see an example of that because I wanted you to understand that there is absolutely nothing in the compiler, in Linden Scripting Language's compiler, that will stop something like that. If you create a dumb loop, accidentally or on purpose, it will continue going infinitely. It will not stop. So you want to keep yourself aware of that. You want to be alert to that kind of thing. You want to be ready for that. And I bring this up because I'm about to teach you how to make a loop. That's a little more complicated than the one I just showed you for a demonstration purpose. That is based on something called a for statement. Basically, a for statement will continue to operate as long as the terms you specify remain true. In this case, we're going to specify them in part using get inventory number. What that is that basically just counts things. Get inventory number, integer type. Actually, I still needed that note card. In this case, we're looking for inventory type note cards. Integer count equals get inventory number, inventory note card. I'm actually going to teach you one more little useful trick because we're going to be dealing with a lot of information here soon. So, integer debug equals true. There is very little you can do that will help you fix problems with your program faster than what I'm just showing you right now. If debug, then this is one of those cases where it's okay to not put the brackets in. It's all going to be one command, one line, and in a case like this, you don't really gain anything by putting in the brackets. You really want it to be unobtrusive. You want it to be able to get out of the way. So go ahead and do this without the brackets. You won't hurt anything this time. Card count equals, that's a string right there. If you use a plus, that means you're adding something to the string. We're setting that as casting a variable as a string, and we're casting the variable count. So card count equals that. We'll also go ahead and set both of these to debug feedback. Why do this with an if debug? Simple. When you're done writing the program, everything works just fine. You change that to false, it turns all that off. So it's very easy to toggle your debug feedback on and off that way. It's on when you need it, it's off when you don't. Right now, we don't need to run those. We just need to run the card count. Save. And I made one little mistake. I forgot to activate the give function we created. So save. Owner clicked, card count equals 4. As you can see, 4 of them in there. Now, when I told you before about lists starting at 0, that starts at place number 0. Counts are still in numbers you'd recognize. It's still, 4 of them, count 4. However, if I were to list them, this would be 0, 1, 2, and 3, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, just a little quirk of computers to keep in mind. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to also need one other special integer. Integer I equals 0. One of the important things, and this is actually more important in other languages, like more complete programming languages, than it is in Linden scripting language, but if you can contain your variables to a specific function, then they are only taken into memory during the course of that function. The rest of the time, they're ignored. It's a good memory saving function. So, back to here. For I equals 0, you actually do use a semicolon. Fors are a very unusual syntax, but this is how it's going to work. I is less than or equal to count. And I equals I plus 1. There is a slightly more efficient way to write that, but I'm throwing a lot of new stuff at you, so we'll keep it this part simple for now. The next thing we're going to do is actually declare what to do. And that is, the first thing you want is if, and I just realized I need one more function that I did not take notes for. So we'll go back to the wiki for get inventory name. There we go. Get inventory name. Inventory type is the same thing as up here. Inventory note card. And number is I. Now we're back to that thing about lists. I starts at 0. We've even confirmed it here. I equals 0. That's the beginning of the process. So the first time it runs, it's going to look for the name of inventory note card 0. And in fact, we'll make this even easier for debugging, like so. String this equals get inventory name note card I semicolon if debug owner say note card making it give this, whoops, it's supposed to be a plus sign, give this as a bit of a string, I is this. Now this will tell us each time the number and what its name was. Very useful for keeping track of, very easy to turn off. If this does not equal suggestion, bracket that in, notes equals notes plus this. So that is to take the notes and add this to it. But only if it does not equal suggestion. Why? You're the owner of this. You're picking these up. You don't need to have your original suggestion note card thrown back at you. It'll just filter that out. No problem, no muss, no fuss. Save that so we can make sure that it goes through and processes all of that pretty correctly. There we go. Note card 0 is suggestion. Note card 1, suggestion 1, 2, 3. And this is blank. That's no problem. That is not going to do us any harm whatsoever. However, it does tell us what we can do is go through and change that. Instead of is less than or equal to count, we can just say is less than. Why do we want to say is less than as opposed to less than or equal to? Because if it's just less than, it stops the last time that is lower than the total count. So since the count is 4, it would stop at 3. If the count was 16, it would stop at 15. Which, because we're starting as a list, starting at 0 instead of starting at 1, it winds up being right. Allow me to demonstrate again. So you see, won't go over this time. It's a minor detail, but in some cases it's going to be a lot more important than it is here, so try to remember to do it. Simple enough. Moving on. Okay, now the next thing, we're actually going to go ahead and turn the give inventory back on. Save. Since we actually have a list to send now. Accept. Suggestion 1, 2, and 3. That's how you construct a suggestion box. Next week we'll expand this a little bit. We'll worry about deleting inventory. We'll worry a little bit more about filtering things, about automatically deleting inappropriate items, such as if they drop an object or a texture in that isn't really necessary, it can automatically delete those. We can also worry about giving it certain feedback and giving it responses to particular types of action. But all of that can wait till next week, where, as usual, we'll have these videos posted every Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So until then, happy scripting, and if you're learning from this video, please drop a like. It helps me know that people are actually following these and appreciating it. If there's something I'm not explaining well or that you're just curious about, go ahead and drop a comment about that. I try to keep on top of checking for comments at minimum a couple of times a week. So if you wind up asking for it, I can do either an actual episode on it or I can start up a little side series. You know, anything's fair game. I'm making these videos for you all, so I know from the people that check it day one that there are people that are really following them, but I'd love to hear from you. So until next week, this has been Becca, also known as Nightcat or Nightcat's Meow when online,